All right, my name is Cheyenne Throckmorton. I run my own company called Massive Reach. I spent 15 years in the pharmacies and doing pharmaceutical medical stuff. Graduate of Georgia Tech. Specialized in psychology and cognitive science as well as computer science. So I've kind of just naturally migrated into this whole digital experience, weird area between marketing and technology. I do a lot of coaching, speaking, training, and all that sort of stuff. More importantly, the FAQs people are worried about is that I am tall. I'm 6'11". I weigh more than you think, about 350 pounds. I do play basketball. My parents are tall. The weather is nice, and I used to buy my jeans in the Scarecrow aisle, which I lived in Montana, so you had to go to the quality supply to get jeans. So this talk's really about SEO for business leaders, and I know as business leaders you're extraordinarily busy, and this is about how you feel by about the time 9:07 a.m. rolls around. Some of you are early risers, maybe even before this actually happens. So I wanted to acknowledge that, and part of this talk is really to give you an overview in case you have to dive down and do the SEO yourself, or if you just need to know that your SEO consultant is doing well or your developer is doing well, and just kind of have some tools that you can use to go along. Why SEO? And probably the number one reason for SEO is it gives you a perceived subject matter expertise. Now, there's a good odds that you are an expert in your subject matter, but just having Google say, you know, if somebody searches for red squirrels and you show up number one, people are going to go, wow, this guy must really know about red squirrels. It gives you a huge advantage. As I've seen, especially small businesses get in there and get some of these keyword search terms, it gives them a huge advantage. The other thing is you get intentional traffic, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into keywords. But you know when people are typing in certain words, what behavior and mindset they're already in, which is a huge advantage over email or other digital marketing tactics, which have their own advantages, but you don't know what that person's doing when they receive the email. You do know if they're searching, I want to buy these shoes, what their intention is. And then obviously it's very measurable. And that's one of the things that people love about SEO. And I put free in quotation marks because that's what everybody, I walk in and like, I just want a bunch of free traffic. It's like, SEO is not free, it takes a lot of work. Takes time, takes team and cooperation. And this is where, especially for a business leader, if you're managing your designers, your developers, your marketing team, there's a lot of different hats that go into SEO, and that can be a challenge. But we'll kind of go over some of that stuff and kind of see how you can help the team get together. So these are the three things I want to cover mainly. I want to kind of give you a brief overview of search engines, what they are, how they work. I'm going to talk about the three pillars of SEO so that you can kind of start to build a framework around SEO. And then we'll talk a little bit about keyword research and tools. As the web grows, it's growing bigger and bigger. We know it's getting faster and wider, which only means that the value of search is going up. You know, people think about search has been around forever. It's kind of set in its ways, but it's really expanding so fast so it becomes more and more valuable for people. And when I say search, I'm probably going to say Google a lot because this is a natural tendency. But when we think about search, you know, there's also Bing and Yahoo, and then there's also, you know, YouTube is actually the #2 search engine in the world. So there's ways you can optimize on YouTube as well that people don't think about. And even thinking about search, like people are searching on Facebook, they're searching in the App Store. There's App Store optimization now. Even when you're searching on Amazon. So the search box becomes ubiquitous across many different platforms. And we'll talk a lot about Google because they do control 65-70% of searches. But the same sort of knowledge will carry across. And one thing I talk about is, you know, people are like, why is Google getting into driverless cars? I think about 90-95% of Google's revenue comes from the ads that they serve when people are doing searches. So a lot of what they do, a lot of what they get into is to get people to spend a lot more time on the internet. And if people are in driverless cars, what are they going to be doing on the dashboard? Sitting there using Google, sitting there getting ads. It's the same reason they got into Android and mobile. They wanted to be able to get more and more ads to people and know what's going on. So, when customers search, do they find you? Let's find out. I'll talk a little bit about how search engine works. This is a technical conference, so we'll probably go through it a little quicker than I normally do with some other people. But the key that we really want to talk about is trust. And I think that's something that people miss when they think about SEO. They might hear about, you know, this black hat tactic, or this person did this, or that person did this. And Google's main goal is to be trusted by the users. And if the users are taking to a page that doesn't meet the experience that they wanted, that doesn't fulfill that requirement, then that's actually negative on Google. And when Google detects that as a negative, they're going to make your rankings go down. They see it as a positive, your rankings go up. Everything that's going to come down to this is really trust. It's really the way that Google has developed their algorithms to try to say, is this site trusted? Is this page trusted? So if there's one thing you take from this is go like, okay, Google and SEO is this a trusted site? So a little bit about spiders and bots. Does anybody know what a spider or a bot is? Obviously, probably most people do. They're constantly crawling your site. They're constantly going around the web. They're automated programs that go through and hit a page, and they see 100 links on this page. Then they spawn off and make 100 more themselves. And they're constantly just crawling the web and sending data back to Google so that Google has data to understand, what your website's about, where you should rank for certain keywords. And here, this is part of a tool. We'll talk a little bit about Search Console, which used to be called Webmaster Tools. Does everybody have Webmaster Tools running on their sites? There's a lot of information in there, and a lot of people don't have it running. They'll have Google Analytics, but they don't have the companion tool running. And you'll find a lot of information like the crawl stats and some of the other things that we'll show going on. So I definitely encourage you to install the Search Console. And really, if you've got Analytics installed, it's a couple of clicks. Key point. Search engines deliver pages, not sites. So I talked to a lot of business owners, and they're like, I want my site to be the top. Search engines don't deal with sites. They deal with the page. And every one of your page is a new door opening to your brand, opening to your experience. So you have to think about your website not just as your home page, but all of the little different pages that are there. And people can come into your site from any way. I just recently worked with a client, and that 85% of their traffic comes to a page they didn't even really know they had. I was like, well, you've got a lot of search traffic coming to this page, and maybe we need to spruce it up. But they're like, well, but they should come to our homepage. I'm like, well, that's not how they're getting into your store. They're coming in this way. Let's optimize that experience. So definitely, as we talk about search engines, it's pages, not your site. Has anybody ever used the site colon trick in Google? So if you do site colon and your domain name, it's only going to return the results for your domain name, which it's really useful to kind of see like, what is my site doing, what's going on. You can detect a lot of things that are happening with your site doing that. Here you can see CNN's got 8.9 million index pages. It's a good thing if you've got a content publishing team that you're managing. You can kind of see like, are they getting pages indexed? Run this once a month, put it into a spreadsheet and see, are your indexes going up? There's a lot of automated tools you can also get that data. But this is just a quick way to kind of understand, or what your competitors are doing. It's also another great way to do that. There's a couple of other ones you could do, a related colon, and a lot of times that will show you the competitors to your website, that Google has been reading the websites and says, hey, these websites are very similar. And even if you do the info colon, then it will give you actually the rest of these commands, which make it easier to write that down. You can also do things with like file type, and that will give you all the PDFs on a website. So anytime you sometimes do things that are like, give me your email address to do the white paper, sometimes I'll just put in the white paper's name, the domain, and the file type. And if they haven't protected their PDFs, you can just get a PDF without having to get spammed by them later. What does top of Google mean? It's one of the most hated words that I have, and yet every time I walk into a room, they're like, I just want to be the top of Google. I'm like, okay, for which page? What keyword? What device? Where is this person searching from? Are they logged into Gmail? Most people are always logged into Gmail, and they're like, I'm number one. I'm like, yeah, because Gmail knows your website to make you number one. Google's just gotten a lot smarter over the years. So one of the ways you can go in incognito mode or private mode in the browsers gives you a little bit better idea. There's some more advanced things you can do, but it's just good to know that this stuff is going on. And I've seen some shady SEO people will do these sort of tricks and show their client, hey, you're doing great, and they're logged into Gmail and tricking the client. So don't be that person. Don't be evil, as Google says. Another thing with search, change is constant. This is one of the old home pages of Google, which is kind of funny. And you can see, again, you've got the old red ads, and now you can kind of see in the front here, it's a very clean, streamlined thing. But really the whole point is that search engine optimization search engine results are constantly changing. Now you're starting to get these blended search results where you're seeing stuff on the side, and that's tied into your Google Plus stuff. And then we'll talk about a little bit about schema.org and how you get some of these results on the left-hand side. Just putting this up here, there's algorithm updates all the time. These are just a few major ones. Just again, it's to help people understand that this stuff's constantly changing. You got to keep an eye on it. And you got to keep an eye on it, but also if you go back to that SEO is about trust, if everything you do is like, okay, am I creating a better user experience for the user? Is this going to be good for Google? Usually you'll stay out of these big penalty boxes. 3 pillars of search. And my slides are cut off. Awesome. The 3 pillars is your content, your links, and your technology. So your content, that's what your page says. What words do you have in your H1 tag, your H2 tag? When you think about a newspaper and how it's got the big headline, that's what that newspaper is about. The same thing for doing your Google stuff is that whatever's in your big headline, whatever's in your H1 tag, your title tag, that's what your page is about. That's what Google's, when it reads it, it's going to say, they're telling me this is what the page is about. Keyword density, how many times is the keyword in the page? You don't want to be too shallow in your keyword density, but you also don't want to be too high in your keyword density. It's kind of a game you play over time. But keep it 1-2%. And use some variety. So if you're talking about soccer, you might talk about picnics. So Google figures out they've got a lot of new the language learning algorithms that kind of go, I know if this person's talking about this topic, they're probably going to talk about this topic. So looking at your keyword and kind of going, okay, what are other things that I should be saying around this? And then avoid duplicating your content. That gets into a little bit of a technical side, and I see that as a big problem on a lot of sites. But you want to make sure that each page is unique for your content. You don't want to have one page with very similar content and another page with similar content, because now you start competing against yourself and then driving both pages down. And then also Google will give you a penalty in addition. And you will find on some of your technical setup, if your URLs have slashes and not slashes, or they aren't redirecting, you're on the root domain, www, some of that technical stuff. If you're seeing your web page doing that thing, you've probably got a problem with duplicate content. And we can answer questions about that later. Again, we talked about the title tag. That's the main tag. That's when you look at the top of your browser, you see the words in there. That's usually your title tag. Obviously, we have a lot of coders in the room. They know how to find it, right-click and read inside there. The URL is important. It's one of the good things about how Drupal, because we're here at the DrupalCamp, Drupal does a lot of things with clean URLs. And what's in that URL is going to be very important. One, as an indicator to Google, but also when people copy and paste your URL, a lot of times they don't change it. So now you've already got the keywords that are naturally in that URL being pasted in social media, pasted on blogs, and people know what that is versus getting some crazy URL, question mark, node equals 5024. It's not nearly as nice as having a clean URL. And the meta description. So the meta description is probably another one of these, if there's one thing you take from this, make sure to fill out your meta description tags. The meta description tag, according to Google, does not have anything to do with your SEO, but it does, I don't know if you can't see this, okay. This part right here, this description that Google is using, 99% of the time, what's in your meta description tag is what's going to be shown right here in Google search results. So you want to make sure that description there is a very call to action. If you've got copy editors that know action verbs, you want to make it a very clickable experience. And that goes in that meta description tag. If you don't fill out the meta description tag, Google's just going to pick something for you. And I was looking at this as a client yesterday, a pharma client, and I did this site colon their site, and I looked in here, and every one of their meta descriptions was exactly the same, talking about EU cookies. Well, there's a great lot. I mean, EU cookies is because that's the thing you see on those European sites. It's the first piece of content that Google saw, and they were like, well, there's no meta description on this page, so we're just going to throw that. And so every result was EU cookies.
So that 1% of the time where that text does not come from your meta description, even if you have one, where is it coming from?
I am actually glad that you asked that. Because I have been giving this talk for a long time, and I have never seen the 1% until a few weeks ago. I was working at Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech actually has one of the 1%. So the very homepage of Georgia Tech, they've been trying to get it to be changed to something new, but Google's not grabbing the meta description. In their particular case, they're grabbing it from DMOZ. And so DMOZ, for those that might not know, is a very old directory. It's managed by people, all manual, no automation. If you can get in DMOZ, it takes a while, it's hard to do. It can help your SEO, but that's actually where they're pulling that from. And so they're going through like a 6-month process. So I don't know if that's just for big sites or
I actually had a client who had the same problem, that same answer.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was DMOZ.
It was DMOZ as well.
Pulled it out of DMOZ, and now they're getting it from somewhere else, and I haven't figured out yet where it's coming from.
Okay. Yeah, I very rarely do I see it. So now two for DMOZ and then something else. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. But if anybody does run into it again, email me. I'm very interested to know what those weird use cases are. I'm just glad I've always said 99% instead of 100%. Accessibility. You'll probably hear this, especially for small business owners. They're like, I don't have time to worry about accessibility. You know, whoever's just coming to my site, they're just buying things. But the robots that read your site, they're blind too. So if you're building your site and you're putting in alt text for your image tags and doing all of these things for accessibility, you know, not only are you doing a good thing in the world and helping people that can't always access your site, but you're actually making it a lot more readable for the robots to give you higher search engine optimization. And that kind of goes back to images, audio, and video. Because Google can't really read these, they are working on techniques where they can read some of this stuff. At this, 2016, you probably just say they can't. But go ahead and use the file name as an option. I see a lot of people just upload a file, like whatever they had quickly, where they're like, oh, my picture version 2, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, that all shows up in your code, that all shows up in your content. People can read that. Like, make it crisp and clean, make it a legitimate file name. Use the alt text. The text that surrounds the picture is also very important. So if you've ever Googled your own name and you see somebody else's picture, you're like, oh, that's my colleague, why are they there? And usually it's because it's like your picture, your name, and your colleague's picture. And your name's surrounding their picture closer in the code than your own picture, so then they get indexed up there. Yeah?
So when you do a Google image search, where is Google getting most of that context from to associate the image to whatever phrase that you're searching?
Absolutely. So the question is about Google image search. And just as we were talking about, the file name is a big thing. Those things here, and there's probably some other things. I haven't done a lot of optimization on the image search, but I do know that these are the factors, and when I look into it, that's that most of the time what I'm seeing. Has anybody else seen anything different?
So some of this is not coming from the image's metadata, if someone has gone to the trouble to go in and put EXIF data?
That is a great question. I don't believe that it. I don't believe that it is.
Adobe supports this huge number of EXIF data fields in your images, and they emphasize it a lot. But I've never known or seen that has any influence on the output of a Google search or not. Although but it seems logical that it could. Google would search that, because that's a great place to put a lot of metadata.
And how I would answer that is I don't believe that the bots are figuring that out at this time. But you're right, that data is in there. There's some structured data in there. They could start to eventually use that. So if you do have a photography team that's doing stuff and it takes them an extra 4 seconds to put the EXIF data in there, might as well become 2017, 2018, maybe Google does read that.
Definitely want to put your copyright data in there.
Right, exactly. And also beyond that, I'm sure that
getting picked up by Yahoo is the EXIF data.
Okay, it is. I did not know that.
Fairly certain they do pick up EXIF data for copyright.
Okay.
But I'm not positive, but it looks like they are, just when you go over and look at how they're figuring out what your copyright rights are.
Okay.
With images.
Yeah, I don't 100% know about that. Good to know. So second part of the 3 pillars is links. The external links. So if I was asking everybody to hold up an arm and then point to the tallest person in the room, what would you do? Right, so it's usually me. It's very convenient to do that exercise. But it would be like thinking, think of it as your arms are like links. And so Google's going to read those links, and if they see that the links are pointing to the same page consistently, then Google goes, okay, so that probably is a page about that topic. So finding and getting links from other external sources is great. It is a weighted system. Not all votes are created equal. If you get a link from CNN.com or some .edu site or a .gov site, that's going to be worth a lot more value for what they call SEO juice than just a link from some random blog. So figuring out how to get those quality links. And then also avoiding the poor quality links. One of those algorithms that we saw happened is, if people were trying to do stuff or paying for a bunch of like crappy links, Google actually started ranking those people down pretty quickly. So look for good high quality links and build them organically. Also, the links on your own website are very important. And I just point to Wikipedia for people. You always go to Wikipedia and you click on every link and it goes to another Wikipedia page. So it's creating its own web of what happens. So it's very similar to think if you walk into a library and you ask, where this section of books is, it should always be in the same consistent place, not somewhere else. So when a Google Spider comes to your website, and you should always be like, this is my page about garbage removal services. There should be one page about it. You shouldn't have, maybe here, maybe there. Don't confuse the bot. Have a very logical structure about your site. And also include links to other reputable sources. Google's bread and butter is following links, these bots following links. So as you are helping them go to other reputable sources, they can then come back on you and make like, that's probably a little more reputable site.
All right, so what about social media links? You put a link back to your own website in your own social media post. Is that going to be judged as a detriment or an advantage by Google?
So according to Google, and I always say according to Google because you never really know what they're doing, it's always a game, but according to Google, they do not place any value on social links. And most social platforms are doing what's called a rel equals nofollow, which is kind of a technical term. But what that is saying, the nofollow is saying bots don't follow this link to give it any juice. At the same time, if you're posting social media stuff and somebody picks it up and then blogs about it on CNN, wow, now that suddenly, you can't directly track it, but hugely valuable. So your social media still plays into your overall brand expansion. Technical structure. Kind of blow through this. So again, we talked about site structure. We talked about clean URLs. The meta keyword tag, I get asked about that a lot. Supposedly Google doesn't do meta keyword tag anymore, doesn't index it. I still encourage people when they're creating a page, figure, and we'll talk a little about keyword research, but figure out what that number one keyword is going to be. So then it helps for us, the team, know as we're writing content, as we're picking images, as we're naming files, this is what this page is to us. This is what it's about. So I'd still fill that in. And you can fill it in with maybe two other words that are similar. So kind of like 3. You don't want a 750,000 keywords like you would see in old sites. Use your sitemaps, your redirects. I think you were talking about before this started how you had to change a .NET site over to a different Drupal site. If you've got a .aspx in the URL, you've got to do 301 redirects to all those so that you don't have broken links. Your robots.txt tells Google, index this part of my website, don't index this part of my website. Don't index the backend admin of my website. And security, and again, trust. It all comes down to trust. Speed is another indicator on the technical side. Google definitely ranks sites that load faster, especially on mobile. So all these other talks you're going to figuring out how to get the site to load 0.1 seconds faster, it's worth it. It matters. And Google Page Speed Insights is one tool you can use. There's a bunch of them out there. And it'll give you a report back of all the different things you have to do to your site. Keep coming back to security and trust. Use SSL on your URLs. It is a positive factor for Google now. If you have an HTTPS, Google will give you a little bit extra of a bump than if you're just HTTP. Obviously, don't have any malware or viruses on your site, or you might find yourself unranked very quickly. So any of that security, as a business leader, your tech guy saying, we need to patch this, that could affect your marketing pretty quickly. So go ahead and patch things. Broken links. This is usually a real easy area to fix on your website. There's lots of reports that'll tell you this link, and even if you're linking to another website that's been broken since you linked to it, you can run some tools. I think you can actually figure that out inside of the search tools. If not, there's a tool called SiteLiner that does a really good job of finding those broken links and going and fix them. Because again, if you're pointing to broken links, then Google goes, wow, they're pointing to broken links. They're not being very helpful in the ecosystem. Let's move them down a little bit. If you've got a bunch of 404 pages where your own site's broken, Google's saying, well, they're not even taking care of their own site. Why should we rank them any higher? And they're definitely not going to take users to a broken 404 page. I know I have a lot of people say, oh, we got this really cool custom 404 page with a kitten on it. It's like, sorry. No, Google don't care. Fix it. Won't get too deep into schema.org, but if you've got, again, this is business leaders, you got your developers, have them look into schema.org. It's basically a way to start writing your HTML with more information in it so that the Google engine can understand more about what your website's going. So if you type in like any popular movie, you might see here, today, tomorrow, the nearest movie to you. This stuff's all being served up because of schema.org data inside of these websites. When you're seeing, sometimes you see over here, reviews. Anytime you're starting to see some of this more advanced stuff, or I Google, NFL week 7, and I can go through the whole NFL schedule inside of Google, that's because of schema.org type programming. Few of the key Drupal modules. Using Path Auto, I think that it probably just comes with, is Path Auto in Drupal 8 or not?
It's not in core. No.
Not in core yet? Okay. I don't understand why it's... It's in my core. It's been in my core since I knew about it. Like, oh my gosh, this has got to be here. But what it does is it helps you as you write the title for your page. It's going to help you with automatically creating your URL alias. And one of the things is, sometimes I see people have it set up and it's got this content / whatever. The closer the word is to the root of your URL, the more weight it's going to have. So taking this content out is going to help your ranking a little bit. This content is superfluous. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean anything. The other thing is I intentionally title this 150,000 ways because you're not trying to get ranked on 150,000. So take that out. Or you're like, really the keyword I'm going for is content strategy ideas. Just call it content strategy ideas. So you can go both ways. A lot of times it's faster and easier if it just automatically does it. But if you're really working on a page, think about that URL. The meta tags, again, here we already talked about those. But this meta tag module makes it easy for your marketers, your content people to type this stuff in so it's not your developers having to do it. And this is where that key description is again. Like, I can't tell you how much you can improve your click-through rates by affecting that area. And then again, the keywords is I'd say just put a couple things in there so your team knows what this page is about. Even if they come back 6 months to edit it, they can go, okay, we developed a strategy around these 3 keywords. You can automate with tokens. So if you're trying to set it up, you want to have a certain pattern to always follow. Maybe you don't want the content in there ever. You can go through and have, there's probably maybe more your developers. Some marketers could figure out how to do this. But just know that the token and this module together work really well nicely together. Social tags. Is anybody familiar with the social tagging part of websites? So there's Open Graph, which is by Facebook, and most of the social platforms will read Open Graph, and it's just a specific set of tags that helps it so that when you do post it in social media, it's going to show up the way that you want to show up with a nice big image, the way that it's laid out, who the author is. You put all this information into your meta tags, and then it makes it show really nice. There's also a set of Twitter tags. The good thing is with Drupal, I think it's just part of meta tag. Do it. You can expand these things here, and it makes it real easy for anybody to put it in and take a developer to have to go through and do it all. But it'll make your social media posts stand out.
So the Open Graph values influence what Twitter and Facebook shows as the content of a shared site?
Absolutely. So, and the key being is when somebody takes that URL and throws it into Facebook, and Facebook automatically generates something, if you fill out all those tags, it will automatically generate it to the way that you want it laid out. Now, that person could still go in and edit it, but I'd probably say 90% of the time, if it shows up great, they're like, oh. And using high quality images is really good for just marketing in general and doing social sharing, because people want those high quality images to show as part of their brand.
This looks very important because I see time and time again people put sharing icons on their site, and when you share it, it just looks like garbage.
So
that's what.
And usually if it's garbage, it's because you haven't put these extra tags in there to help it out. Or sometimes you'll post it and you have to figure out which image you want to do, and you go through like 19 logos, and then maybe you get the head image. As a user,
Meta tag does this?
Open Graph meta tags. Oh, and for Drupal, yes. Meta tag, I think there may be a sub-module you have to, like advanced.
Yeah, I think it's part of the meta tag project.
Yeah, once you install meta tag.
Okay.
And there's gonna be a lot of repeat, what's your description? And you can probably repeat a lot of that. You could go through and customize it more if you were really working on a particular page. But the good thing about this is once this is installed, again, for business leaders and your content marketers, it's not technical anymore, which is why Drupal is so popular.
Yeah, it supports tokens, so you can put, you can say the image field, the head image field always goes in the Open Graph image. The node summary always goes in the Open Graph description, that sort of thing.
More automation, very good.
Yes. The redirect project, so again, as we talked about, don't have dead pages, don't have broken pages. Sometimes a URL will get out there and it's broken. You can use this redirect module. So here I was using an example of that. I redirected from the 120,000 ways to the 150,000 ways project. By the way, those pages don't actually exist. But thanks Pantheon for being able to spin up a quick site to create some nice screenshots of different ways to do this stuff. There's another thing that XML Sitemap, I didn't have an actual slide on that. But the XML Sitemap is a file that you put at the root of your thing that tells Google, here's all the pages about my site. You can handwrite those. I've handwritten them. It's a terrible job. Let Drupal do it for you. Yeah?
Do you have a recommendation for the size of the XML sitemap? How many links to push over each time?
I don't have. I know that you can string them together. So there's probably a reason to have 1,000 links in one file and then have a sitemap 1, sitemap 2, sitemap 3. There's probably some sort of a...
I think there's like a 15,000 link limit.
Okay. Yeah, because I have seen a lot of sites that have the different sitemap one. And you can also, I think it says somewhere here, you can have a video sitemap and an image sitemap. It's starting to have a lot more different sitemaps you can put together. But I don't know what the upper limit of that is. I would just Google it at the time I needed it. One of the key things with your keyword research is know your audience. When I do this, a lot of times we go into talking about your user personas, your customer journeys, figuring out who your audience is. We don't have time for all that. So we just got one nice slide that says, know your audience, make them happy. We talked a little bit about this, the intent in keywords. This is one of the valuable things about SEO, is that when they're creating searches like how to, best way, what is, ways to, you already know that now they're in a psychological mindset of they're trying to get awareness and information. If they're saying review, top, compare, like now you know they've gotten down the funnel into interest and desire. And then obviously they're saying, buy, coupon, deal. If you're getting traffic to your site that says buy something, you really want to have that page be able to convert that. Keyword order matters. If you do an image search for blackjack or Jack Black, you get entirely different results. A lot of people don't realize that what you do with your keyword, even an S will matter. So if it's red wagon, wagon red, it could be different. But think about that. And then go ahead and mix and match your keywords and use that intent to create different strategies. So you can do the best way to dunk is the awareness, and then the top dunking shoes are already getting into interest, and then buy the NK34X, which isn't a shoe that I know of. But if they buy that, now you can create 3 different stages that address 3 different funnels of the marketing campaigns. So it gets a little more into campaigns, but that's one of the huge advantages of SEO, is to be able to tap into that. Finding great keywords. I really have no idea what this image has to do with finding great keywords, but it just looked like a great image that I had to just put in there. I have no idea what it means. So I was like, I'll bet this guy could find some great keywords. So we'll talk about some of the tools you can use, but you're really looking for search frequency. If you're number 1 for a term that never gets searched, it's the tree in the woods problem. So you want a search term that gets searched frequently. Obviously, it's relevant to your site, relevant to your product. And then with competitiveness, you want to make sure it's not as competitive. Or if you want to compete with people. I think CNN pays $1 million a month to be ranked for news. So I'm not going to compete with them. Your longer phrases, as you start to think about your site and your offerings, your longer phrases are going to, there's less competition, they're going to be easier to rank for, but one of the good things is they're going to convert higher usually. They may have less traffic, but if somebody types in, I want to buy a 1994 Nissan Maxima that's ugly green, that person's already really far down the funnel and they're probably ready to buy. So has anybody run Adwords in this room? A few people have run Adwords. So Adwords has a tool called the Keyword Planner that helps you build your advertising campaigns, but it's also really useful for doing SEO. There's a way to get in and create a free account in AdWords without putting your credit card in. You have to, again, Google it. There's like some secret link that you can get in and do it without having to put a credit card down or put a credit card down and just do a $0 campaign. But once you have access to this tool, you can actually put in your own website, and it's going to say, this is what your website's about. Here's some keywords you might be considering. And it's going to tell you what's the average monthly search for that keyword. What does the competition look like? And the bid is from AdWords, so it's not as useful for SEO, but it can tell you a little bit about competition for that keyword. It will also show you search volume trends. So if you've got a very seasonal product, you'll have an idea of, okay, my search volume's at half during this month. Maybe I do want to do all my updates to the website during this time, but I'm not going to do it in November or December if you're an e-commerce site. So seeing those volume trends can be extraordinarily useful. One of the other things about that is if you use conditional formatting in Google Sheets, if you guys use Google Docs, you can literally just hit a button in there and it'll open a sheet. And using this conditional formatting, you can create this format layout. And I can talk to you about this afterwards if you're interested. But it starts to point out like where you have the most searches with the least amount of competition. And inside of the keyword planner, competition only says high, medium, low. When you actually export it, it's going to give you a number between 0 and 1. So you're going to get a lot more information in that export. Does anybody use Google Trends? Again, just another tool. If you're trying to decide, is this a keyword that we want to pursue, or is it this keyword versus this keyword? I've sat in a lot of meetings where people will argue for 20 minutes on a keyword, and I said, let's just throw it in Trends and see which one. And you'll see, well, this keyword's going up, this keyword's going down. We're going to choose a keyword going up. You can find a lot of really interesting data in Google Trends. Google Alerts. If you haven't used it, go ahead and set one up for your name. You never know, unless you have a really common name, that might be bad, but there's not a lot of Cheyenne Throckmortons out there. And if there is one, I'll know. So Google Alerts is just taking the bot data, and when it sees Cheyenne Throckmorton, then it sends me an email and says, hey, did you know this website's talking about you? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm presenting at DrupalCamp, I knew that, but if it ever did something like I should have on some mugshot site, I'll know to contact the webmaster and have them take that down. Google Analytics, most people know about this. I think there was a talk earlier today on talking a lot about Google Analytics, so hopefully they covered some of the really cool stuff. But again, you want to track all this stuff. Once you've developed your keyword strategy plan and you know the keyword that you're targeting for the page that you're targeting, then if you see the search engine traffic go up on that page, you can correlate and say, okay, that keyword strategy is actually working. It used to be in Google Analytics, you had the direct data. It would tell you what keywords were doing what. Now that everything's on SSL, you don't have that data. But with a proper strategy, you can figure that out. There's a bunch of backlink analysis tools. We talked about backlinks. This is going to be in Search Console again. But figure out who are the backlinks that are coming to you. This particular one I threw out. Yellow Pages, there's a bunch of links coming from it. Yellow Pages is trusted, so that's doing good. A lot of times you'll see a lot of .ru sites in here. The Russian sites, those probably aren't great sites for you. But you just go in and you can disavow. There's a bunch of stuff you can do about it. But it's just good to just check in on it, see what's going on, what's happening. Another great e-commerce thing is if you see some random blog down here and you run an e-commerce site, and if you're a small e-commerce site, if you got a fan that just wrote an article and links to you, contact that fan. It doesn't take a little bit of time to look at this report and email that person, and they're going to be elated that, oh, somebody read my little blog, and it's the person that I love. Think about a company like a MailChimp who does such a good job with their fans. Obviously, it's a bigger scale, but take that and use that. Use this data to find those people. And then content, in this previous slide, there's a bunch of tools, Moz, Moz.com, Ahrefs, Majestic. These are all great tools. And then you get into content analysis, and a lot of them do a lot of the same things, so it's not like they're just this, just that. The Screaming Frog SEO Spider, if anybody's used that, that's a program you can actually download to your desktop, and I think you can do up to 500 pages for free, but it's going to tell you everything about your website. If you are a business owner and not technical, you probably don't want to look at those reports, but if you have a technical person, they could look at it and tell a lot about what's going on with your website pretty quickly. And again, the Google Search Console, if there's one thing that you do in addition to Google Analytics, set up Search Console, Go through it. It doesn't take there's not a lot of links in there, but it does give you a lot of valuable information. And the tool list is never complete. We talked about a lot of those. Questions, resources. Hey, we hit almost at 40 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Sure.
Do you have this presentation accessible in any way?
I do not at the moment, but I will have it. Email me or I'll figure out how to get it accessible. Sure, yeah. Yeah, take a picture of it.
This is being recorded too.
It is being recorded, yeah. But in case people want to go right now and start screaming frog SEO, I get screaming frog SEO spider. I get the words confused. I'm always like, well, I know I can get enough. I'll be like spider, frog, screaming SEO. But it's a really cool tool.
So if I have a site and I'm trying to see like what's hurting the SEO ranks or like what can be done to improve it, are you recommending to go to Screaming Frog first, or what do you think?
The first thing is make sure do you have your Search Console set up? The question was, what's one of the things that I can do for my site? Start with Search Console, because that's information direct from Google. It's going to tell you if you've got your broken links, what is your site content about. If you get in like the Screaming Frog SEO Spider, it's going to give a lot of data. It's real technical. But Search Console. Number 2, make sure those meta description tags are working correctly. Make sure that your URL, your page title, your meta description, like probably most business owners could do those 3 things and improve their SEO and improve their marketing. Yeah, Bo.
What about Yoast module?
Yoast module there's not one for Drupal, is there? Is there? I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, you just all you have to have is a body field. Then it will allow you to do.
So Yoast like there is for WordPress?
Yes.
Okay. Seems like something I should know.
How your site page will look in search at Google.
Okay.
Text, so you can go in and type something out if you want to and change the heading and the description of the page.
Okay, yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah, Yoast in WordPress is great.
An average on SEO for that page.
Okay.
Yoast, Y-O-A-S-T.
Yeah, Y-O-A-S-T. Another site that I've got here is this website.grader.com. It's a good thing to store your website in there, and it's actually going to go through and find your social. Do you have RSS feeds? It'll give you a score of 0 to 100. It's a good, quick start place if you're just kind of wondering what's going on with your site. More questions?
How long does it take to learn all this? That's why you can hire him.
This is
You
true.
don't have to learn it.
This is true. Just learn it bit by bit. That's why I said do Search Console first. Do the URL, page title, and meta description. Start there. And you can get real technical real fast. But yes, question.
I'm using something like a keyword ranking tool.
Mm-hmm.
I used to use web SEO tool for many years, and they moved their platform just online. So I was using the desktop version. And I'm looking at this new tool instead of it. So probably it's Ahrefs.
Ahrefs?
Ahrefs.
Yeah.
I'm talking about keyword ranking in different search engines. Like here, Google, Yahoo, Bing, something else. Here, the list of my keywords. And I see positions, and I can schedule reports for my customers. Like, okay, every week, every Wednesday, or something like this.
Yeah, Ahrefs is a great tool. And we talked a little bit about it before that I was going to talk a lot about Google. But there's all kinds of search engines. YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. And so again, with YouTube, we didn't cover a lot of strategies for YouTube, but they're going to be the same sort of things. Make it a good experience for your user. Be a trusted website. Be a trusted resource. One thing I didn't mention is there's a lot of user experience data that Google's collecting now. So if somebody goes, they do a search, you're number 1, the person clicks on it, goes to your site and goes, oh, this design's terrible, I don't really like it, they go back. Google knows that. They know that this person was on this search result, and now they're back 5 seconds later. The page that we sent them to must have sucked, so move that page down our rankings. So, designers, while they may not think a lot about the code side, designers should be loving the way that this stuff's going, because making that user experience more important, making it, help yourself, but it'll also give Google an experience that they're helping people too.
Yeah, about a few months back, there was an article where one of the competitors of that company, they were essentially clicking on the links and then going back. And that impacted their search engine, search engine results like anything.
Yeah, so the comment was that somebody had a competitor that was clicking their links and then going back real quick to essentially give them, and it was causing negative rank. And there is a lot of competition out there doing nefarious things or clicking on people's AdWords and driving the prices up. Google is working really hard to negate those effects. And while there's companies that do it, I think you'd be a lot better off spending time focusing on your employees and your leadership and your company and delivering a great service than spending time trying to knock your competitor down. It's not to say people won't do it, but I would do it the other way around.
But on the other side, if you have a site and you're trying to promote the content, it's definitely okay to write blogs or other posts that relates to that site and link back to the main site.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, you want to create content and valuable content. So when people get there, they're engaged. They do that. Doing articles in other places and pointing back to your site. You can get into a lot of advanced sort of strategies. And if you have like so many domains and you point the domains back and forth, if they're all on the same server, sometimes Google will go, they're all on the same IP address. They're trying to game the system. Don't try to game Google. They're going to win. People like to try to play the game, but I know that they hire all the smartest engineers in the world, and I don't want to compete against them. So I'll just play the game nicely and do well for my clients. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when a penalty comes out and then it's scramble mode, that would be terrible. Any more questions? We turn this camera off and then cut camera. I'm like staring at me.
The schema.org, what's the connection there with Drupal?
I haven't, I did a quick search on this before, and I've done a lot of hand coding for schema.org. I have not done, there is a schema.org project in Drupal. I don't know how advanced it is.
I know that by default, some of the markup coming out of Drupal, if you don't alter it yourself, it actually uses some schema.org attributes in the tags.
In Drupal 8, I would assume?
And I think even Drupal 7 some.
Really? If you do like a right click on it, if you go to like a CNN.com or somebody spend a lot of money, you'll see a lot of item scope equals. When you see that in there, that means that they're using schema.org. Or if you're looking at your competitor's search results and they've got some advanced search stuff happening, usually that's schema.org. And really, you can think of schema.org as a subset of HTML for search engines. Because without it, it would be hard for search engines to know exactly what's going on.
It's a finer, it's more granular structured data.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, last year at this camp, they had a lady that done a schema.org presentation about recipes. I don't know who she was.
Recipes are there's a whole schema.org thing for recipes. And so that's one of the things, when you get into schema.org, it's going to say, I am describing a recipe, and there is a structure for recipe. I am describing a movie. There is a structure for movie, movie title, main actor, producer, you say item scope equals. So it's real granular into that thing. A lot of people you run into are like, well, I sell lawnmower engines. There's not a schema.org. You have to kind of go one up to product. And you can do some stuff in the description. When you start to get into schema.org, it gets pretty in depth. You probably have to get your developers to do a little bit more. And then again, kind of one of the things we talk about with SEO is there's a lot of different minds that go into this. You have to get your developers together with your designers, to your marketers. And that's where I think, and a lot of times I talk more about, leadership and goal setting. But if you do leadership and goal setting ahead of time, that's going to flow downstream for all of this stuff.
I think schema.org is integrated with Drupal 4 now, Drupal 8.
Is it?
I think so, right?
It very well could be. It probably like the upper, because schema.org, there's this subset, and then, but like so you talk about the recipe one, I don't think it'd be that hard for somebody to write a module that's like, or write into their, like, here's the new recipe content type that fully implements schema.org. I think those could be valuable modules for people.
It helps the search engine because you have the social cards that pulls that type of data out. So that way you can get the card at the top for Drupal. I'm not Drupal, but for Google.
I also found another module called RDF UI that was helpful to set up your parameters for schema.org.
Okay, I've not used that one yet.
For a node, maybe you integrate with the RDF UI, it gives you some user interface where you can go in and add this extra value keywords.
Yeah, there's I think there's 3 different ways you can write schema.org, and I think RDF is one of those, and then JSON LD, and maybe just straight HTML.
Yeah, our SEO guy likes JSON LD, but I think that probably is still not there yet. But the RDF is still there.
Let's talk to that guy. All right, 5 minutes to the next one. Thank you all.